Hey everyone, this is Eric Bond, the founder of Beat the GMAT, and welcome to the Write Like an Expert series. Today we're going to be taking a look at the application essay questions for this year's 2012 and 2013 Wharton School of Business MBA application. And joining us today, we're going to be co-hosting this session with our good friends at MBA Mission and the founder of MBA Mission, Jeremy Scheinwald, who will be leading us through this presentation. Before I get into the backgrounds of Jeremy as well as MBA Mission, I just want to say a little bit about the history of the Write Like an Expert series. So this is actually an annual series that we put on for the Beat the GMAT community, where we ask top experts, top MBA admissions experts, to join us in these live webinars to walk us through each essay question for the world's top business schools. I believe this is our fourth year, so we're really honored to bring you this session and this series for this fourth year. So a little bit about MBA Mission. MBA Mission is a top MBA admissions consulting firm. I'd be surprised if you actually haven't heard of them before, because they're very prominent here in our community, and as well as just have such a prominent brand in this industry. One of the big differentiators about MBA Mission, though, is that it really features experts that have master communication skills. And in a moment, you're going to understand why when you get to know the founder a little bit more about why they focus so much on great communicators being their experts and helping you in the process. MBA Mission is also the only MBA admissions firm that's recommended exclusively by Manhattan, GMAT, and Kaplan. So that says quite a bit about them. A little bit about Jeremy Scheinwald, who is the founder of MBA Mission. So going back to the theme of being a master communicator, this guy is someone who began his career exclusively as a communicator, as the speechwriter for the Ambassador of Israel to the United States, and he's since adapted those strong communication skills into this firm, MBA Mission, where he and his team have an incredible track record of getting their clients into the top business schools. Jeremy is also frequently cited in Business Week, Wall Street Journal, and U.S. News. So before I hand it off to Jeremy, a little bit about today's structure. So in a moment, you're going to see Jeremy go through his presentation where he walks through each essay question in this year's Wharton School of Business MBA application. And we'll probably have about 20 or 30 minutes after his presentation to take your questions live. So if you have a question and want to get some live advice from Jeremy, during the presentation, feel free to post a question into the comment wall for the Wharton School of Business MBA Watch page. And our team is going to be monitoring the questions coming in. And when the Q&A starts after his presentation, we're going to be taking those questions one by one and going through as many of your questions as possible with Jeremy with us live. So all that's being said, thank you guys for joining us for today's session. And Jeremy, why don't you take it away?
Thanks so much, Eric. Thanks for having me here. We've enjoyed being a part of the Beat the GMAT community for many years, and it's a thrill to be hosting another Write Like an Expert event. We're here today to talk about creating standout Wharton application essays. As the title page here says, I'm Jeremy Scheinwald. I'm the founder and president of MBA Mission. One of the reasons why I love the Write Like an Expert series is because I myself am a writer. I started my career as a speechwriter for the Ambassador of Israel to the United States, and I started MBA Mission really with, by accident, to be totally honest, helping people write effectively. People were coming to me because I was a speechwriter and I had strong experience in writing, and I started to help people communicate better. And from there, as people continued to get in, the business really grew. So I don't want to talk too much about us, but I do want to say that you can never underestimate the power of communication. So with that, let's talk about these essays and how to be effective, how you can make them powerful. We're going to talk briefly about the inside the mind of the Wharton Admissions Office, and then we'll talk about, get to the main event here, creating those standout essays, and I'll say a little bit about us at the very end. So, you know, as you write your essays, you need to think about your target audience. You need to think about who you're writing for. So, you know, what is the job of the admissions office? They've got 6,500 applicants vying for 845 spots, and the admissions office has to make a lot of constituents very happy. They have to balance the interests of many. So first and foremost, I mean, they're actually, they have to balance all these. There isn't a foremost. I guess that's just a figure of speech. I mean, first on our list here, they have to make professors happy. Professors do not want to have people in their class who are incapable of managing the curriculum. So, they're going to measure your GMAT, your GPA, and they're going to say, can this person handle the work? But also they're going to think about fit. Does this person have something special to offer the class? If they're going to make a professor happy, they want to know that they're finding someone who can contribute to the class. Same thing with students. Students don't want people falling behind. They want to know that you are going to be a protector of their brand, that you have professional potential. They want to know that you're a social fit. That you're going to fit in. You're going to make the community richer. And alumni want to know that, again, you're a brand steward, that you're protecting the brand, that you've got the potential to do great things, and the admissions office needs to think about them as well. Of course, they need to think about recruiters. You might be an excellent individual. You might have tremendous professional potential, but if you don't really understand your own story, you don't understand how you're going to make that transition to this adventurous career. The admissions office is going to say to themselves, well, this person's never going to make recruiters happy. And of course, they're going to think to themselves, I have to make my boss, the dean, happy. I have to think about all of the above: academic, professional, leadership potential, social fit, fit in the classroom, and this person needs to be an excellent brand steward going forward. So, the main job of the admissions office is to manage that scarcity, to say, okay, we've got 6,500 applicants. We've got way too many applicants here for the number of spots we have. We need people who are going to make all of these constituents, who are going to optimize for all of these constituents. So think about those things as you're putting together your whole application package, and particularly your essays. How am I going to achieve, how am I going to tick off all of these boxes in a subtle way? How am I going to send that message? So let's think about the AdCom's perspective. You can see the full interview. These are excerpts from an interview that I did with Dr. Kumar, the admissions director at Wharton last year, and you can read the entire interview on our website. But this is one that I thought you're going to want to think about. I thought it would be important for you to think about as you craft your essays, because I think that people perceive the admissions office as being, operating in a smoke-filled room, trying to find reasons to ding applicants, and it's in fact the opposite from Wharton's perspective. They feel they're advocates for the applicant. They're on the applicant's side, and they're trying to give you a fair shake. I think Ankur actually joked around that she's, here she says there's no reason to fear her, but I think she actually joked around that she's not that scary a person in our interview. So they're like detectives trying to find the best candidates. They're not trying to find reasons to exclude otherwise qualified people. The little things are not going to set you back. Again, she reads every application from the beginning to the end. She wants to read the whole thing. They're not quickly trying to find reasons to exclude people. They really know how much time and effort that people put into this, and they want to get to know you. So, I really put in the first 3 quotes here with that in mind. They really want to get to know the holistic you. So don't think that there's a way of gaming this. Hey, if I just offer this one tidbit, this magic tidbit, it's going to get me in. Think about yourself as an entire, as a holistic candidate, and try to present as much of yourself as possible. And the admissions committee will appreciate that, get to know you, and it's not a guarantee that you're going to get in, but it'll give you your best chance to stand out in the pack. A lot of people think that Wharton is a finance school, and they'll try to game the admissions committee, the admissions process, and say, okay, I'm going to become a finance candidate here, and they'll foist some theme on their candidacy that doesn't exist. So, for instance, I was a speechwriter. I wouldn't try and apply as a finance candidate to Wharton because it wouldn't make sense. I'm a speechwriter. I don't have a finance story. I only have the story that is based on my own experiences. And what Ankur was saying here is that you can have it all. They don't need you to be one thing. They have 220 faculty. I believe they have the largest marketing faculty out there. And so don't try to pander to the admissions committee. The other thing that a lot of people worry about is not having an alumni connection here. And they have 80,000 alumni. There'll be a lot of disappointed alumni out there every year. They can't make their alumni happy. Most of their class, as Ankur notes here, most of our class doesn't know alumni. And you shouldn't worry about it. This is not a funnel for alumni. They're interested in having a diverse class, and that's why they have a holistic evaluation process. So, just a little context here for you as you think about putting together your application. Just kind of try and take a deep breath and think about what you can control and what you want to say to the admissions committee, and then just say it. So, with that in mind, let's talk about creating those standout Wharton essays. So what are the essays? Well, you got a mandatory question here. How will a Wharton MBA help you achieve your professional objectives? Fairly straightforward. You have 400 words. We wish you had maybe 500 or 600, but you have 400. Okay, that's mandatory. Everyone's writing that. Then you have a choice of 2 of 3 of these essays. Select a Wharton MBA course, co-curricular opportunity, or extracurricular engagement you're interested in. Tell us why you chose this activity and how it connects to your interests. Imagine your work obligations for the afternoon were canceled. You had 3 free hours. What would you do? And this long quote, knowledge for action draws upon the great qualities, et cetera, et cetera. And the question basically really is, tell us about a time when you put knowledge into action. You have 500 words for each. Now, is there a right one to pick? Is there a wrong one to pick? No, the admissions committee isn't asking you a question that they don't want you to answer. There really aren't games to be played here. There isn't, everyone's answering number 3, so I'm going to answer number 3, or everyone's answering number 3, so I'm going to try and be different and answer number 2. Answer the questions that allow you to present yourself in the best possible manner. Think about this for a second here before you start. A successful package of essays doesn't just start with one person sitting down and writing one day. You need to obviously put in a lot of thought into your essays before you start writing. You can't wing it and get there. You can't create a good idea as you sit down. So what we tell candidates to do is multidimensional brainstorming. Explore everything. The first thing you're going to want to do, this is a fairly simplified example, but the first thing you want to do is just jot down your identities. So I don't want you to just get some tips here on how to write effective essays. I want you to actually have some tools. So write down the identities that you possess. So this person's simplified identities, or this person was a project manager. Okay, one identity professionally. The health committee leader at his office. Okay, there's another identity. He was on the board of a theater company. Great. And he was actually a standout grandson. And people often guffaw at the idea of, standout grandson, that couldn't possibly be an identity that the school would want to know about. But they want to know you're a human being. And you'll see that Wharton actually asks questions about you outside of work. So why not explore everything at the beginning and not be dismissive? They're not only interested in your work experience, they're interested in, again, the holistic picture of you. They're interested in everything that you've done. So then let's take those identities and let's break them down further. Now, in the interest of space, we can't do a full breakdown here today, but the project manager, this individual had 4 or 5 significant projects he was working on. I would explore each and every one of them. I would do a little tree, let's say, where from project manager you have each project broken down, and from being on the theater board you have each project broken down or each accomplishment broken down. So here's one of those projects that this person managed, and the core point here is that he was managing 7 consultants at a failing company. So what questions can you ask yourself around that, breaking it down even further? How did you forge a unified team of 7 different consultants, considering somewhat different locations? Okay, that's a decent question to ask yourself. It might not yield a great story, but you may as well ask it. Did any team member require special attention of those 7? What was your relationship like with your client? The company was failing. What was keeping that relationship going? How did you motivate demoralized employees at this failing company? Did you face any ethical issues having information at one company and maybe doing a project in a different company that was in a related field and knowing that one company was failing. So you want to ask yourself all sorts of questions about the stakeholders in in this experience in order to hopefully generate some ideas. We find that candidates have a lot of trouble generating standout ideas, and you don't need to be Superman to get into Wharton. You just need to think thoughtfully about where you have shined in your experiences and breaking things down, saying, here are my identities, and within these identities, here are the accomplishments I've had, and then asking yourself questions about them will enable you to get to some good stories. So over the next couple of slides, we had to break it up over several slides, but over the next couple of slides, you'll see the outputs of questions like this. Again, simplified. I think there are more stories that can be derived, but here are some of the outputs that one would get from asking questions about all of the different experiences and asking questions to the stakeholders therein. So output from being a project manager. So lobbied the client and created incentives for demoralized employees to complete work. Again, this person is not Superman. This is just a good story. I was in this tough environment. I lobbied the client to get this incentive system put in, and the client went for it. That's a story, right? I was a project manager. That's a fact. But you want the story to tell the admissions committee. I managed a high performer's ego and facilitated his growth while also balancing team interests. I had a really aggressive guy who was trying to take over, so I had to work with him to balance his interests with the team. Okay, that's a story. Completed key project ahead of schedule. Earn follow-on business with the only project manager to do so. Again, that's a story. I'm not going to do this for every single one of these outputs, but again, going back here, those are outputs for one identity for this individual, the project manager, and you'll see some for the health committee leader as well. Overcame internal skepticism and developed fitness program with zero budget. Again, going back, the next slide would be for the theater board and the grandson here. So theater board navigated a difficult board dynamic and achieved harmony. Output. Standout grandson. Grandmother couldn't travel alone. Took her to Hungary for 1 week. Okay, so this is not just any old grandson. I assume there aren't. We have many people on our call today. I'm assuming that there aren't too many of you who've taken your grandmother on a 1 week trip to Eastern Europe because she hadn't been there in 70 years. So this is a standout achievement that assuming there isn't anyone out there who's very, very few out there. I'll be impressed if there are. Completed a joint fundraising effort with your grandmother. So this is a unique accomplishment. If you're a grandson, this doesn't work. If you're a standout grandson, it works. If you're a standout brother, because you paid for your younger brother to get through college, maybe that's a good story. And so again, I want to tell you to do this with caution, but certainly not to ignore the personal side of your application. So you've got all these outputs, right? So you've done all this brainstorming, you've got all these outputs and more. What I would do is I would simply take all these outputs and organize them under the essay questions. So Wharton asks gives you an opportunity to talk about a course or activity. Okay? Lobbied a client and created incentives for demoralized employees to complete their work. That would be an option to discuss in terms of relating that to a course and activities. Maybe you're going to work with maybe you're going to talk about a course that Wharton has about creating incentives and motivating people, or leadership. Conducted a wellness retreat with other firm in the midst of a salad challenge, weekly yoga. Okay, maybe this is an idea that, again, you could talk about creating a dynamic workplace. I'm sure there are clubs that exist in that regard at Wharton. There are definitely classes with leadership and creating a strong work environment, etc. Now, in this case, I've actually italicized this because under these circumstances, for whatever reason, this is the idea we would go with for the course or activity for this person. Could not travel alone, personal leadership, or even travel clubs could be related to. So, give yourself as many options. That last one might not be the best example, but, again, you're just giving yourself options for answering these courses. So you've brainstormed, you've created a huge inventory of ideas to discuss, and now you're giving yourself those options, and now you can understand a way to shine. Completed, if you had 3 free hours, okay, maybe you'd talk about spending time with a special relative of yours, and you could work in your story of that close relationship here. Maybe those are the ones that fit here. Or maybe you'd spend some time on that fundraising effort. Okay, those are some options. Again, putting knowledge into action. Maybe here you work in the story of lobbying the client and creating incentives. So maybe it would work over here, but maybe it's better over here because it gives you, in your knowledge into action story, because it gives you an opportunity to talk about something different in your course activity story. Again, you can choose. There are a lot of options here. You can see for knowledge into action, there are 6 different options for this person. You want to give yourself the best opportunity to discuss, your best story. So creating this inventory will allow you the most flexibility. And again, I could have italicized different ones. It really depends on your individual story. So this individual might have picked, of those 2 options, might have picked conducting the wellness retreat as a course or activity to discuss, and knowledge into action, discuss this amazing incentive program, and left out the 3 free hours. That's an option. You could have done it in any different way. Okay? So the key here is preparation. You need to have the best ideas. You can't turn a bad idea into a great essay. So let's go back to the essays themselves. How will the Wharton MBA help you achieve your professional objectives? Okay, so this is kind of a classic personal statement. You have to give a little bit of context. You have to discuss your objectives, obviously, and you have to relate them to Wharton. So context, you only have 400 words. You can't use 200 words to discuss your career to date. That's a complete misuse of space, of words, of word count. By the same token, you really have to give some context for those goals. You can't just say, I want to manage the Yankees in your first sentence. You need to have some context. Maybe you've managed a minor league baseball team, and you feel like you need that MBA. That's probably only one of the few ways that could actually be a reasonable argument for you. But you need to have some context within those 400 words, even if it's just 3 or 4 sentences, 50 words. You can't just say, I'd like to be a consultant. It's going to be a very boring opener, and it doesn't give the reader any reason to believe that you'll be good at it. Then, your objectives. Now, professional objectives, that's actually fairly broad. It gives you a lot of latitude. It doesn't mean you have to nail down very deliberate short-term goals and say, I want to be sitting between B and Eric at Beat the GMAT, and I want to work on their social media campaigns. That's just too specific. So you really, you need to think. This is a broad statement. You need to think about kind of how to give goals that are meaningful without being so narrow as to render them, sort of difficult to achieve because there's only one of those. So you want to be ambitious, balance those interests with what's achievable, and discuss them in a way that is compelling. I noted here we have a free personal statement guide on our website, and it gives several examples of of this philosophy, and you can go to our website and again download it for free. I think there's a link on our front page. So the other part is, you have to make it clear that Wharton will help you achieve those professional objectives. Once you've laid out those objectives clearly, you have to relate Wharton's resources to your objectives. So let me try this again here. There we go. So, what is wrong with this statement here? Wharton's an excellent MBA program. The healthcare management major will be ideal for me as I launch my career. I'm excited to launch my career in this field, and only a Wharton MBA will help me to achieve my goals. The problem here is that Wharton knows all this about itself, and you haven't related any of this to you. So you haven't said to yourself, okay, well, here's where I am in my career, and here's where I'm going, and I know how I'm going to use Wharton's resources in order to make this a reality. So you're not using the space to talk about how great Wharton is. You're using the space to explain, how Wharton is going to have an impact on your career. This could be any program. You could say, Fuqua, has an excellent MBA program. Their healthcare management program will be ideal for me as I launch my career. I'm excited to launch my career in this field, and only a Fuqua MBA will enable. This is totally generic, and this is a huge mistake that a lot of candidates make without realizing it because they mean it. They feel like they've done their homework. They know Wharton has a great healthcare program, and they're being sincere in saying it. It's just not coming out in a sincere manner. Instead, here's someone who knows exactly how Wharton is going to help him, her achieve professional objectives. As I transition from healthcare consulting to hospital administration, I recognize a need to develop my hands-on operational skills and my broader policy perspective. Through health services delivery and e-health, I'll gain a cutting-edge operational perspective, and I'll complement these courses with health policy and legal aspects of healthcare. This person understands exactly what he needs and how Wharton is going to allow him to do that. It doesn't need to all be classes. You can talk about clubs, you can talk about any sort of opportunity, consulting opportunities that you're going to have to work hands-on with a client while you're in school. It doesn't matter. But this individual has clearly done, this is only the beginning of a paragraph, but has done some homework on the school and understands exactly what his needs are and how he's going to get them. So that's really, really important. Develop those goals and relate Wharton's resources to them, and you'll be pretty close. You'll have the foundation of an excellent essay. Okay, what else? Let's go back to this. Select a Wharton MBA course, co-curricular opportunity, or extracurricular engagement that you're interested in. Tell us why you chose this activity and how it connects to your interests. So why are you choosing this and how it connects to your interests? This is still about you. This is not about Wharton. You don't need to talk about the Wharton MBA course in depth and show that you have nuanced understanding of the curriculum and all those things. You're here to talk about your relationship to the course, to the co-curricular opportunity, etc. So you can talk about something professional, but we advise against it. Unless that connection is truly profound, unless you really, really have a unique connection. So if you have a connection, if you're just a run-of-the-mill, sorry to say this, but if you're just a run-of-the-mill banker, you can't talk about a finance class. It's just not going to be meaningful. You have to have some unique connection to the subject matter. I would otherwise advise you to think about something else. So again, develop your interest and connect it to Wharton, and that's in some ways very much what we were talking about in the previous slide here. You can't have a generic answer here. If I put Fuqua in here, it wouldn't work. They don't have the exact same courses here. This couldn't be a fill-in-the-blank answer, and that's true of the same thing with our next slide. Bad. Just sort of offering something at the end. I'm a stand-up comedian. I'm well seasoned in front of a crowd after more than 30 stand-up comedy gigs. I'll bring this love of comedy to the Wharton Follies. That's not how it connects. It's not how it connects to your interest. It's not how you connect to Wharton. This is not why you chose this activity. You're just saying, I enjoy stand-up comedy, and Wharton happens to have the Follies. And that's not compelling. You need to explain, again, how it connects to your interests. So this person, a good example here would be, I never imagined, again, this is the only a sentence or two within an essay, so you probably need more context, but for the purposes of our presentation today, I never imagined that I apologize for the extra blah there, that Wharton would give me my first opportunity to produce theater. I intend to join the Wharton Follies in my first year as a writer and volunteer, and also volunteer with the Follies crew. As I become ... This person understands exactly why he wants to be involved with the Follies, how it's going to relate to his interests, and that's where you want to go to. You want to go to a place where you are connecting your interests in a profound manner. Imagine your work obligations for the afternoon were canceled and you found yourself work-free for 3 hours. What would you do? Okay, this might go without saying, but you would not work. You cannot relate your free time to work. Okay, you cannot say, okay, well, if my work obligations were canceled, on my consulting firm, I would pick up an additional consulting assignment. I mean, that would just be, frankly, be a little asinine for you to say. I think it should be obvious, but I'm sure someone will do that. would say, oh, I'm going to prove my dedication to my work by saying if I had 3 more hours, I would work. They want to know about you as a human being. They want to know that you would take the time to develop, grow, learn, or experience something. So you can show that you would work on something outside of work if you had a hobby, a passion, something that, a charitable endeavor, that might be okay. I mean, for you to talk about, if you said put some time in there. The key here is that you need to really reveal an inordinate passion. They're basically asking you what your passion is here, and it's a window into your personality. So, you can't just sort of say, oh, I'd spend the time, relaxing. I work really hard. I would probably just, lie under a tree and read a book. If you're just a voracious reader of literature, then maybe you could make an argument about lying under the tree and polishing off a whole bunch of literature that you've been working on that you've been waiting to polish off. I think that'd still be probably a fairly tough essay to write. But the key is to reveal inordinate passion. What do you do, and more importantly, how do you do it in a way that distinguishes you from others? So again, in our bad-good comparison here, I love cooking and would spend my time cooking egg rolls because I have an emerging interest in Asian cooking. I would take out my deep fryer, chop up vegetables, and quietly. This is not going to work. This is a slightly better than slightly. It's not inordinate. It's maybe a enhanced level of interest in cooking. But it's hardly inordinate. If you were to say, I now have a drawer full of recipes, and would seize the moment to finally make dried pufferfish, quickly running to Chinatown to buy my ingredients, then that's acceptable. If you have an inordinate passion for Chinese cooking, and you can talk about ingredients and the way you would do it, and how exactly you'd spend that 3 hours, that's fine. But you need to show that this passion is manifest in a way that it simply isn't for anyone else. So there's no right answer for this. Again, if it's truly inordinate, you could talk about Chinese cooking. It'd be tough to prove that it's really, really inordinate, but if it is, it's completely fine. Just don't get bogged down in something that is run-of-the-mill. If you don't have something inordinate, don't answer this question. Knowledge for action draws upon the great qualities that have always been evident in Wharton: rigorous research, dynamic thinking, and thoughtful leadership. Well, that is basically a red herring. It's something that you don't need to get hung up on what they're saying. This quote from the dean, maybe a little egocentric to be offering a quote for your own dean and to force everyone to read it, but that's up to them. The key here is this entire sentence is, tell us about a time when you put knowledge into action. So think about knowledge and action. Now, knowledge does not mean classroom-based learning. Knowledge means that you somehow or another you've acquired knowledge through experience, possibly through educating yourself. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to exclude classroom-based learning, but the key here is to reveal a cause and effect between the acquisition of knowledge and the use of that knowledge, and that's really what you want to be describing. So it's showing that you're a conscientious individual who is learning things and then putting that knowledge into use. So what I would say is, think about that cause and effect, and develop in a pretty simple way. Develop the story of how you acquired that knowledge, and then show its direct impact as a conflict emerges in your essay. Show its direct impact and direct application. Clearly revealing that the knowledge is manifest in that action and has its impact, and then reflect on it. And that's really what you need to do in this essay. And it's going to be very hard to do in 500 words, but you can do it for sure. The key to actually succeeding in this essay, or pardon me, I'm just going to get a glass of water here, or any of the pardon me, or any of the others, is using a fairly basic perspective on writing. Now, the admissions offices are not expecting that you're going to be a New Yorker quality writer. That's not that is not the ambition here for them. They're not saying, hey, we're going to accept the best writers, the people who use the best adjectives going into, as we accept people into our program. So the key here is to reveal your own experience, first-person perspective. You're talking about you're talking about my experience. You're not talking about Morgan Stanley or McKinsey's experience. You're talking about how you do things. So you are the subject in your essays. And the key also here is if you're going to write about your own experiences, you might say, well, that's so egocentric. But if you're actually writing about your experiences, you're not bragging. You are, you're actually going to write in an earnest manner. And I'll show you in the next slide about how simple it can be. The key here is showing, not telling the reader, not saying to the reader, I am a great cook because I am always on the hunt for great experiences. Instead, you're just saying, I now have a drawer of recipes and would seize the moment to finally make dried pufferfish. You don't need to say, I'm passionate about cooking. I love cooking, as it says here. I would spend my time cooking egg rolls. That's actually far, it's boring compared to, I now have a drawer full of recipes and would seize the moment to finally make fried pufferfish, as silly as this example might be. You're not here to make declarative statements about who you are, but instead to show who you are through your actions. So show, don't tell. Don't tell them that you're awesome. Show them. So let's take a look at this. Here's just a random paragraph. During my first 3 years at Goldman Sachs, this isn't necessarily related to any of the essays we've discussed. During my first 3 years at Goldman Sachs, I worked harder than other analysts. I quickly proved my analytical skills and dedication, so I was asked to mentor junior analysts and was then placed on some of the biggest projects in the company's history. It's a very declarative statement. During my first 3 years at Goldman Sachs, I worked harder than other analysts. It's bragging. It's unappealing. You're telling someone something and you're not backing it up. I quickly proved my analytical skills and dedication, so I was asked to mentor junior analysts. How do we know you proved those analytical skills? I helped close the $500 billion purchase of MBA Inc. by Mission Inc. and led 3 analysts on the $600 billion purchase of Manhattan Inc. by GMAT Inc. You can tell these are fictitious deals. It was gratifying when my mentor, our managing director, Steve Smith, promoted me. So this person failed the first person test. I mean, it fails the earnestness test. I apologize. Doesn't fail the first person test, I guess. And fails the show don't tell test. And that's a problem, and this is not something where we really get a sense of who this individual is. There's no ownership over this essay. During my first 3 years at Goldman Sachs, I worked harder. Again, very arrogant, but also, arguably lots of Goldman analysts could believe that they worked harder. There's nothing that really allows this person to stand out. How about this contrast here? On my first day at Goldman Sachs, my managing director, Steve Smith, informed me, I don't have an open door policy. I have a no door policy. So, this isn't not dramatically like something that could never happen to anyone, but that's an unusual experience for this person. This person owns this experience. Not all managing directors are ripping doors off their hinges. So I frequently walk into his office at 3 or 4 a.m. So this says I'm working hard. We don't need to say I work hard. With the question only to be encouraged to ask even more. After 6 months, I barely visited Steve, but soon found junior analysts at my door telling me, Steve said you were the right person to ask. So again, I earn the respect. Well, analysts are asking me questions here, and that says it shows, instead of telling, that I earned the respect. Steve asked that I join this deal, etc. Then, ultimately I was promoted, and we understand why. And to go back 2 slides, this is a first-person perspective. It's actually earnest. You're just letting the experience do the work for you. And if you talk about simplicity, there really isn't a lot of sophisticated language here. Frequently, I don't know, is that the most sort of grueling? These words aren't that sophisticated. This is not beautiful language. It's all very straightforward. It also is a much, much easier way to write, because you should ask yourself as you write, a test for if you're following a comfortable narrative is, and then what happened? So on my first day at Goldman Sachs, my managing director informed me I have a no-door policy. Okay, so what happened? Well, I'd walk into his office, often at 3 or 4 a.m. with questions. Okay, well, then what happened? Well, after 6 months, I kind of ran into the questions, and then other people found me. It's all very logical. It's actually an easier way for you to write. During my first 3 years at Goldman Sachs, I worked harder than other analysts. Okay, then what happened? I don't know. What happened after working harder? Well, I guess I better declare something else. I quickly proved my analytical skills. Then I was asked to mentor. It's not related necessarily. There's no natural flow of those ideas. And so this is actually a way to make your essay writing easier for you. I think that actually brings us to the end. We're MBA Mission. We are the world's leading admissions consulting firm. We are elite communicators. Everyone on our staff has work in the public domain, as a published author, has work firmly in the public domain. We are not a website. We are a real firm. This is what we do. We have a consultant conference of our own every year where we fly in our whole staff. Our staff is full time. Again, this is what we do. Our staff is on our website. You can check out their bios. This is not something we do part-time at night. We believe that in order to be an excellent firm, you need to be dedicated to this. And I think that's a very significant distinction between us and virtually all other firms. We have earned the business of Kaplan and Manhattan GMAT, the two leading GMAT firms in the world. Both refer exclusively to us. And we are already working for you. We actually send all of our candidates a book that I wrote, the Complete Start to Finish Guide to MBA Admissions, and Insider's Guides to the schools of your choice. We also have profound admissions experience. It's a nice thing. It's not totally necessary. The key here is communication, as we've discussed today, and that's really, we've met lots of admissions officers who don't have the communication skills to help you. With us, writing is really what's key. We guide candidates usually through a complete start to finish process. I'm not going to harp on this. I want to get to your questions, or we want to get to your questions. But I think it's important. We work on overwhelmingly on a package basis, because we feel like it enables candidates to invest an unlimited amount of time in our services. Here are a few members of our team. You look at, Monica Carpenter-Okra. She went to Harvard Business School. She wrote 65 successful Harvard Business School application essays with some peers. Kiva Smith-Francis went to Harvard 3 times, but she's here because she is a writer. She is a writer at Forbes, or has written for Forbes. And it just goes on and on. Lynn Maloney, another Harvard Business School grad who was a managing editor for Inc and Fast Company. And again, this is our full-time staff. These are the people that you would work with at our firm. We think that our staff is what really makes the difference. These are not hobbies for our staff members. They don't come in at night. This is what they do. Here are a few links, again, for our free personal statement guide. Check out our blog. We have, I think, 7 or 8 different series going on at all time. And we have a free consultation where come to us with your questions. We'll give you a free half an hour of your time. If all of you sign up right now, it'll be a challenge for us to fit you in this week, but please be patient with us and we'll do our best for you. And with that, I think I've talked enough, and I will turn it over to questions from the audience, and our team will do the best to respond to them, do our best to respond to them. Thanks so much for having us, and thanks again to our friends B and Eric at Beat the GMAT. I think that this is a really wonderful opportunity for candidates to learn about all the schools and all the essays. I encourage you to attend other events. We're doing another Chicago event, but attend others from our competitors and try to lap up as much free information as you can. There's so much more out there than in the good old days when old guys like me applied. And I think that you can use all that information wisely to your advantage. Thanks so much, and let's take some questions.
Thank you so much, Jeremy, for that great presentation on your analysis of this year's Wharton School of Business MBA application essays. So for those of you who might have joined us a little bit late into this presentation, we've been listening to Jeremy Scheinwald, who is the founder of MBA Mission, go through his analysis of this year's Wharton essays. And right now, we have some time left for the remaining hour to take your questions live. So if you have a question about anything that you've seen in today's presentation, and have a question that you'd like to have addressed by Jeremy live right now, now's the time to do so. So you can just enter your question right here on the Wharton School of Business MBA Watch comment wall, and our team is going to be monitoring the questions coming in, publishing the questions one by one, so it'll be a very clean format and easy to follow format for you guys as well as for us. And we'll go through as many questions as we can. So one heads up too, there's not going to be any more audio or video for the Q&A. This is all going to be just a text chat via the MBA Watch comment wall on the Wharton School Business page. So thank you guys so much for participating in today's session about Wharton. And also a huge thank you to Jeremy as well as MBA Mission for spending time today to share this analysis with us. So thanks again, guys, and we look forward to taking your questions right now.